Hi, I'm the terror that faps in the night. Am I right, ladies? Andrew. And this is Gayties Toys. On today's MIA 80s Ladies, we're going to be talking about the Darkwing Duck cartoon from Disney that took place between 1991 and 1992. It ran for 2 seasons and also spawned precisely one toy line from Playmates Toys. In this case, we're going to be talking about Morgana Macawber, who was Darkwing Duck's love interest slash witchy ally, and the plans that were made for her to be included in the line. Of the entire early 90s Disney afternoon run, Darkwing Duck is the most popular, the most beloved. You can fight me, don't even try, because my favorite's actually Tailspin, but Darkwing is just the best, regardless. It focuses around Drake Mallard, who goes by Darkwing Duck of the Night, the terror that flaps in the night. Very much a Shadow slash Batman slash all sorts of like kind of pulpy comic book heroes mashed into one in a very duck world. It was thought this was spun out of DuckTales, which ran from like 1987, strictly because Launchpad McQuack and some other characters had been included in Darkwing Duck's genesis. However, the creator's gone on to say no, they live in completely separate worlds, which is just baffling because they even referenced Scrooge McDuck at one point. It's a weird line in the sand, but it is a different thing than DuckTales. Wink. For the character we're going to be talking about today, Morgana, she was originally almost the Doctor Strange meets Catwoman kind of superhero mashup. A lot of these characters really are sort of, a few different things to a few different properties, specifically, early Marvel slash Batman. So you've got your Poison Ivy homage, you've got your Hydra Man homage, you've got your almost Reverse Flash homage. You've got a lot of, just great villains and characters that as soon as you see them, you know who they are. And in the case of Morgana, she is, very much a few archetypes, very few very important archetypes to our kind of pulpy, shadowy figure. Morgana originally hails from Transylvania, because of course she does. No duck pun there, strictly horror business. And she definitely has, the looks of a lot of classic Universal horror monsters, specifically Bride of Frankenstein with that hair. She, of course, based off of her creepy crawly kind of, just vibe, does gravitate towards villainy, but as soon as she meets Darkwing Duck, that's where the Catwoman evolves kicks in, and they have this instant sizzling attraction. It's also funny that they're both, big talk on how good a sorcerer or superhero they are. However, there's some room for improvement. Morgana does eventually sort of become full-blown hero, and that's where she kind of leans more into the Doctor Strange, Dr. Fate of it all, where she's sort of like a magical ally, someone who you can turn to for supernatural affairs. She does have a series of, familiars, like some bats named Eek and Squeak, a spider named Archie. She's really steeped into sort of, the whole Addams family of it all, but really, becomes a well-grounded hero. She actually goes on to, help form the Justice Duck. So, just a great character, a fun hero, a great foil, a great love interest for Darkwing. As I mentioned, Playmates was the one who was going to be doing figures for Darkwing Duck. They also did a great line for Tailspin. Again, my favorite, great line, all-encompassing. Buy it for on the cheap if you want it. As for Darkwing, they had grand plans. I mean, they had a pretty hearty first wave, and I will give them the credit that they did include the main female character, Goslin, who would be Darkwing's adopted daughter. She was in, if not every episode, almost every episode. So, kudos them for doing this. Sidebar, Playmates was notoriously incredible at making women action figures in the 90s, whereas, everyone else like Hasbro was sort of like whinging and complaining about it. Playmates was like, here's Council Troy, here's April O'Neil, you want 15 of them? Here you go. They didn't care. So when it came time for season 2 of the figures, Morgana was already there. They had a whole, great wave, really filling out the villain ranks. I mean, as much as the first wave was, some knockouts, this really built the world. And I feel like if it had come out, it would have, just knocked socks off. And again, to Playmates' credit, this is the point of the video where I usually cry foul and say, sexism in the corporate, boardrooms. This was not Playmates' fault. Disney abruptly, without warning, just cut ties with Playmates and said, we're done, cancel all your plans. This is unfortunate because Wave 2 was, in several different catalogs. I've never heard anyone really getting too many like packaged, or prototypes. There's not a lot of that floating out there in the ether, but it seemed well enough in development, especially compared to like most, toy lines where when they're doing Wave 2, they're definitely starting, but they're still, like kind of wading the water, seeing how the actual success of it is. Playmates had full confidence, so this is too bad. The final verdict here isn't great, and not just for Morgana, but, Darkwing Duck and the whole Disney Afternoon crew. Despite warm fuzzies, despite people, having fond memories of the entire Disney Afternoon lineup, including, DuckTales especially, but Tailspin, Darkwing, they've struggled. Disney's really struggled to, sort of recapture this magic. They don't really show up in the theme parks that much, and any toy line that has been attempted failed pretty quickly afterwards. To date, there was sort of two valiant attempts. One was Funko. They made a line of Disney Afternoon figures, pretty specifically. They had a little, smattering of some main characters. It only lasted one series, and it was great. And I think if it continued, it could have really expanded that world. But that didn't pan out. Likewise, Beast Kingdom did do a Darkwing Duck plus a Nega Duck, strictly because it's the same figure with different colors. Looked great. Bit pricey, but I mean, again, they didn't continue this, much further. So the prospects of this going on are shrinking by the day. The nostalgia is sort of, shrinking as we get older. I think that point is more apparent when you consider that there was a reboot of DuckTales in 2017. It ran for several seasons, was incredible. Again, go watch that as fast as humanly possible. But despite Darkwing Duck and DuckTales being two separate universes, not so in this cartoon. They actually did very clearly, painfully obviously, try to backdoor pilot a project for Darkwing Duck outside of this, television program. However, DuckTales, wrapped up pretty shortly after that, and DuckTales, there was some, Darkwing Duck, there was some talk about, people involved, actors involved, they were ramping up for production. That was years ago. It didn't really go any further than that. So, to date, the only Morgana figure we've ever gotten was this minifigure from 2017 as part of a Funko Minis line. Admittedly, there's a few cool characters in there, but again, not enough to build a world, not enough that, what Playmates had in mind. So, this is not a great news story. I do like to end on a positive note. But again, we'll see. I mean, there's been countless brands we've talked about where I didn't really expect anyone to pick up the license, and they did, come back and thrive. So this is one that I think if someone really gave it an honest push, fans would respond. So fingers crossed. If something happens, I'll do a follow-up video, of course. But if you did enjoy this, thank you for watching. I hope you please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you next time on MIA 80s Ladies.